Hello everybody and welcome back to LaughNapkin, where we read stories from your favorite subreddits. And today's reading comes from the subreddit r/ProRevenge. Let's get right into it. This first story was posted by the user Philip Hamilton19 and is titled, "Neighbors Steal Our Dog. We Take Their Kids." This happened when I was around 12 or 13, so the details might be a little skewed. Most of my childhood, the house right next to ours had been condemned and abandoned. The property owners were willing to sell the land for $200. That's how bad it was. Eventually someone bought it and threw a manufactured home on it to replace the condemned home. Soon a nice old man moved in next door, and we didn't pay close attention because he kept to himself. That was until his daughter moved in with him. Soon our quiet little neighborhood turned into an episode of white trash and trouble. The daughter would fight with her spouse about every little thing and keep my family along with our neighbors up half the night. Their kids were the worst part of it all. We never knew how many kids lived in that house because so many different children and adults were in and out of there all the time. Me and my siblings tried to become friends with them, but we ended up being more of their babysitters. They would come over to our house and each of my siblings had a group of kids, 3 to 4 each, to watch over. These kids would walk in uninvited into our house, then steal toys and games from our rooms. Honestly, they stole stuff from all over our house, but this was the main area I noticed. They would either take it for themselves or throw it in our backyard river. They would constantly run in and out of our house, even if no one was with them. They would steal all the fruit in the basket my mom left out for us. My mom confronted them about it, and their 3-year-old son called her the B word. The parents refused to apologize for their behavior, saying stuff like, "If you loved it so much, you wouldn't have let them take it." Or, "Don't parent my kid." One thing they would specifically do with me is they pulled on my hair all the time. I'm a tomboy, and they would just call me a boy in a wig because girls can't play with skateboards, girls can't play with ninja action figures, or any other gender stereotype. They would constantly bombard me because they truly didn't know girls were allowed to play with anything they wanted. One of their heavier children stole my skateboard and jumped on it, breaking it in half, similar to the So No head vine. Then they said I shouldn't have been playing with one anyway. There are plenty more examples, but I think you get the point. The neighbors decided that because our house was nicer, or that we could afford basic things, that they had permission to run an electrical line from our house to theirs, which in itself is a bad thing, but they decided to run off our electric bill to triple the cost of our original. We were lower middle class, below poverty level, so we couldn't afford that kind of bill. The rule in our house is that if you're not using it, it's turned off. That's why my parents were awfully surprised to see an $800 electric bill. Eventually, a person from our electric company came out to our house to see what was happening. They found an extension cord running to their house. The electrician simply unplugged it and said that should be the end of the problem. My mom politely but sternly went to the neighbors to tell them that this was not okay. The neighbor had a small adult tantrum about it and cussed my mom out, but eventually went back into her home. My mom was obviously not pleased with their behavior, but tried not to escalate the situation any further. My neighbors tried a few more times to run the line from our house to theirs. Each time when we unplugged it, they would cuss us out and send their kids over to destroy something else in our home. Eventually my mom straight up told them that if they came on our property again, she would call the police and press charges. We could still be friends with their kids, but they weren't allowed in our land. They decided that because we don't let them use our electricity, that the next best option was to steal our dog from the backyard and claim our dog attacked their kids, even though our dog was harmless and cowered at everything due to bad owners before us. The pound came and took our puppo away. By the time my brothers and I got home, she was already gone. We just assumed she ran off to her grandmother's who lived down the street. She would do this often because my grandma spoils her. When my parents came home, they about lost it learning our dog was missing. By the time we found her at the pound, they were already putting her up for adoption. My parents had to re-adopt our dog because we didn't claim her in time. We even had tags on her that said she belonged to us. The pound told us why the dog was taken, and my mom said enough was enough. Now the revenge. When my mom got home, she sent my little brother over to their house to play with their kids. My brother became a little spy that day. His job was to look around their house and report anything that could be suspicious. We learned from him that they were sleeping 3 kids in a twin bed. The entire house was cramped and dirty. The old man that lived there was hardly home because he couldn't stand his adult daughter that lived there. All around, the kids were being neglected. With the information my brother gathered, my mom called CPS, Child Protective Services, on the home. Within the month, all the children minus one, who the old man cared for, were removed from the home. While I agree the foster system is bad, it was definitely better than what they were going through in that house. The mother of the children started to fight with the old man, her father, on everything, because her kids were no longer there as a distraction. The old man was to be her next victim. The old man was eventually fed up with her and kicked her out of the home. All that was left in the home was the old man and the grandson he was fostering. They were both very kind and amazing neighbors. This next story comes from the user Eli Chalita, and is titled, "Cost a Horrible Boss All the Profits from Selling His Company." I met an amazing mentor while doing my master's in the US who hired me to work for a company where he was the COO after I graduated. I'm an immigrant to the US, so my visa is conditioned upon being employed. Get fired, and I would quickly be deported back to the Middle East. The CEO of that company was planning on selling the company to a much larger British firm, so he wanted to maximize revenue in the short term so that he could get a better price for it. He also had a huge ego, and so did the sales VP. She was convinced that I was too young and inexperienced for my job and tried to sabotage me quite often. Part of my job was ensuring that we respected our terms of use for the data we bought from our suppliers. I would make sure that our customers used it in the pre-approved way, that the engineers used and encrypted the right data for each product, and that we reported usage and sales accurately so that the suppliers could bill us. Well, the VP and CEO had approved a bunch of deals where they allowed a customer to use the data in a way that breached our suppliers' contracts and underreported sales to the supplier, so that they could pad the company's revenue and get a bigger payout once they sold it. I brought it up to them because I thought they might have gotten the contract terms wrong at first, but they threatened to fire me and have me deported if I didn't go along. Whistleblowing would have gotten me deported anyway, since the suppliers were not based in the United States. One of the suppliers asked to audit our reported sales data, but the CEO kept delaying the audit and hid it from the British firm who was going to buy us. I kept track of every single transaction they made in that way, however. After the British firm bought that company, I was one of the people they kept on because I was managing the product lines really well at that time. I got along with the new owners quite well. So when they decided to review the contracts and discovered the audit, I gave them every single file I had on those fraudulent transactions. The company had been in breach of contract with several suppliers, and I had the paper trail to prove it. The new owners immediately worked with the supplier to address the issue and reimburse them. They then claimed that this additional expense had been incurred before the purchase, since the audit predated it, deduced it and the revenue based on it from the company's total value, and then took that out of the payout that they were supposed to give the CEO and VP. Those two a-holes didn't make a single cent off selling their company, and that's after they had worked on it for 6 years. Alright guys, and that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories today. If you did and you want to support the channel, hit that beautiful like button right now. And for those of you that are new to my channel, if you enjoy videos like this, stories from Reddit, be sure to subscribe for future videos just like this one. Have a wonderful New Year's, and I'll see you in the next video.